Karen Temple.
Thanks, Ananda. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third Modernization webinar. This webinar series will keep our users informed and up to date on copyright modernization. It's also a place for users to ask questions and receive answers about modernization progress. I encourage you to submit your questions as well as your feedback. This is a place to share ideas. Last time, we discussed how the Office incorporates user feedback into its development processes for copyright modernization. Today, we will continue our modernization discussion, taking a deeper look at data. Data management continues to be an important focus of the Office's modernization efforts. We have launched a data management initiative, which focuses on assessing how the public uses our data, gaps in existing copyright data collection, and how to make our data more accessible and useful to the global copyright community. The Copyright Office also just recently released our strategic plan. Our plan identifies 6 focus areas, one of which is measuring success. With that, we also are using data. The Office measures success using data to support evidence-based decision-making. To measure success, we will ensure that valid data and analysis are applied to key metrics. Data-based decision-making will help us improve services, address problems more effectively, and identify gaps. Accurately measuring success is critical to keeping the Office focused on fulfilling our mission and vision. Joining me today are representatives from the Copyright Modernization Office, which we fondly call the CMO. First, CMO Program Analyst Sarah Garsky is here to brief everyone on current modernization initiatives. Sarah?
Thank you, Karen, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Before we get to our featured presentation, I want to update you on several key modernization initiatives. Our multi-year project to automate recordation is well underway. Currently a paper-based activity, the modernized system will simplify and improve how the Office records information on copyright ownership changes. Our intent is to present an initial limited availability and functionality release of the modernized recordation system early in 2020. Later this year, we intend to initiate systems development activities to replace and improve upon the current public record system and begin the systems development activities to replace the current registration system, ECHO, with a modernized system. In all ongoing and upcoming systems development projects, we collaborate closely with key partners within the library, particularly the Office of the Chief Information Officer. And now to our featured presentation. As an Office of Public Record, it is critical that the Copyright Office have in place effective mechanisms to acquire, validate, protect, and make accessible the data we have been vested responsibility for under the Copyright Act. Implementing robust data management standards, practices, and supporting systems, which our featured speaker will talk about in detail, will help us do that. Current activities in the data management area are in complete alignment with several focus areas of the Office strategic plan. We must ensure that the intellectual property data entrusted to the Office is accessible, searchable, a single source of trusted truth, and integrated across all copyright business areas, including registration, recordation, and licensing. We intend to implement a user-centered, interactive, automated solution or solutions which will help us deliver on this responsibility while reducing opportunity for human error. This is in alignment with the IT modernization focus area. We are also analyzing how data is currently used, recorded, and translated into requirements, which provides meaningful insight into areas of strength and opportunities for improvement, and will allow us to optimize our business processes. Once we have analyzed the data, enhanced the technology that both uses and makes the data available, and improved the data processes, we will be positioned to measure success, allowing us to evaluate our effectiveness and performance with metrics, predict needs and trends, and make evidence-based decisions. Ananda?
Our presenter today is Shuman Shukla, Data Management Section Head at the Copyright Modernization Office.
Thank you, Ananda, and good afternoon, everybody, for joining with me on this webinar. Today, I will talk about Data Management Plan at Copyright Office. As Karen mentioned earlier, we are looking deeper into data and making it fit our strategic goals. So when I say fit, that means we are making the data findable, interoperable, and transparent. So how do we propose to make our data fit? The data management section at Copyright Office is trying to establish a process to make data access user-friendly. We're identifying the gaps so copyright data is digitally enabled and people can access information online. And the information can be used for making data-driven decision-making, which is useful for the copyright organization. Before discussing more about data management plan and the work we are doing here at Copyright Office, I would like to take you at a dining experience. This will help you to understand what I'm going to talk in my later slides and discuss about the data initiatives and data work we are doing at Copyright Office. This is a pic of a restaurant kitchen and a dining area. You must be wondering what I'm going to talk here. It's a simple restaurant dining experience. So as all of you know, at the restaurant, the talented chef takes the raw materials and transforms them into appetizing, delicious, multi-course meals. There's a significant amount of planning that goes into the kitchen layout and the components of workspace to have a productive kitchen. So what it takes to design that kitchen? The kitchen is designed with two goals in mind. The first one is an efficient layout to maintain a regular supply of ingredients, a preparation area, cooking area, serving area, servers, and etc. Second goal is to deliver a consistent, good quality food. This includes taking care of hygiene, high quality ingredients, taste, presentation, the right order to be delivered, and how it is presented. So once the food is ready, it needs to be served. What the customer looks at in the dining area, they look for the comfort, the decor of the area, variety of the food, the quality, good service, and the cost. Now that we have walked through the kitchen to the dining area, I hope everybody is hungry for data and wants to know what I'm going to talk in my future slides. So let me switch back to my data management plan here. This slide is just like the kitchen. The data management environment has a staging area where we have data which is collected, prepared, stored, and managed. The data management services shown here are used to set up a data governance process, to have an efficient layout in form of data architecture, maintain data quality, store data in a data warehouse, and use the business intelligence tools to present data in a very simplified way so the user can use it for their benefit. The overall management of availability, usability, integrity, and security of data is what data governance that you see here on this slide. What we do under data governance is identify the data, maintain the consistent supply of information, include new data sets if that's required, arrange them, categorize them, apply business rules, and monitor the data flow. This is pretty much like creating a recipe for creating a dish. So we are creating a recipe of data to produce some meaningful information. Now we'll talk about the data quality. Definitely you need to have a good input to have a good output. So garbage in is garbage out. So at data quality area, what we do is we make sure the fitness of data based on accuracy, completeness, consistency, integrity, timeliness, uniqueness, and accessibility is maintained. So what we do is we take the data, wash, rinse, repeat until the data is clean and suitable for our use. So we collect the data, profile them, apply the rules, examine them, and monitor them, and transform them into a meaningful set. Our next slide is about the digital asset management process, which is another area where Copyright Office is very rich at. So this is a process of organizing, storing, and retrieving digital assets and managing the digital rights and permissions to those assets. What are these digital assets? These are the photos, videos, graphics, logos, PDF files, animations, and many more that we house at Copyright Office, which can be used for producing really valuable information. Now I'm going to talk how we are going to use all this information, create a single source of truth, and make a meaning out of these information. For that, we have set up a data warehouse which selects, organizes, and aggregates data for efficient comparison. And we will be using business intelligence tools which will be used to analyze the data and derive the insights to help the business. So just like I spoke with the kitchen analogy, we have a kitchen, we have a menu, and we serve the food. Similarly, we have a kitchen, which is the data sources and the staging area in the data warehouse, where we gather the information, arrange them, manipulate them, and then produce a menu of data in form of either a data mart, which is a set of information buckets interconnected to each other, or in cloud, which is the way to go in these days, or put it in a pool of information called data lake, which can be used for analysis and used for meaningful information. And then we present it in form of dashboards, or do the analytics, or generate reports for our purposes. So basically, we are trying to create a single source of truth, maintaining a quality of data, and providing facts that can be used for data-driven decision-making. So to do all these things, we need to have certain policies, procedures that govern our data, and that can be used to set up a standard across the board. So we have data architecture management process that includes the models, policies, rules, standards that govern which data is collected, how it is arranged and stored, and how it is used in different data systems. It also includes the specifications used to describe the data, define data requirements, guide data integration, and control the data. It's very much like planning the kitchen layout and things to consider before you even serve the food. So we need to understand what data we have, how we are going to use, and people are on the same page with the standards and taxonomies and usage, so we have a uniform process across the board. So to do all these things, to actually act on this data and provide these services, we looked into different databases at Copyright Office. We looked actually more than 18+ databases, interviewed SMEs at Copyright Office, did some gap analysis of existing data sets, and this is what we found. We found we had 1,475 source tables, means the information were coming from these many tables, out of which only 1,335 tables has data in it. And out of those data tables, only 238 tables has business relevant data that we needed, or we needed to use it in some form or the other. We also looked into the internal copyright business process. So for an external copyright user, you submit the application, fees, and deposits, and wait for the final approval or any correspondence to resolve the issues to get a final approval. But internally at Copyright Office, the submitted application changes hands and touches various divisions of Copyright Office before completing the process. This slide shows the complexity of the work and the level of coordination required to complete a request. We also explored the databases, looked at the complexity of the Copyright Office and Copyright Office process, and tied them to create a complete picture shown as a business architecture here. This shows the path of information flow, dependencies of multiple systems, and complexity of process. This is a kind of a very high-level, broad overview of end-to-end process at the Copyright Office business. After exploring the data and knowing what increasingly matters, we translated the business process into an information flow at database level. So the information we gather needs to sit in some database or some containers. This is what the picture depicts, where you can say that these are the interrelated containers of information that can be used to generate complete set of reports at the back end of any application at the infrastructure level. So this is a classic example of moving from cylinder of excellence, which a lot of people know as silos. We are breaking the silos here, so we are moving from cylinder of excellence to the network of information. This is like creating a web of data to manage information, which will be the key driver here. This is our plan and layout for a productive kitchen. So all these ingredients, all these mapping, and the plan, these are the documents that describe the data we expect to acquire and generate, how to manage, analyze, store, and what mechanisms will be used to share and preserve the data. Here is the dish you ordered. So these are the sample dashboard reports we prepared after analyzing the copyright data, their relationships, and the dependencies using business intelligence tools. This is sample data and does not reflect the current actual value. This is an effort to present the complex information into a simple way that can help Copyright Office to make data-driven decisions, as Sarah described in the beginning of this presentation. Thank you all for joining me today. Ananda, back to you.
We will now begin the question and answer portion of the program. Attendees can submit questions on the right side of the WebEx screen. First question we will address is the Copyright Office exploring blockchain or distributed ledger technology? Integrations to manage intellectual property registration and licensing. Question goes to Shuman Shukla.
Thanks, Ananda. Yes, we have looked into some of the blockchain options, and we are analyzing those areas. It may or may not pertain to the kind of work we do, since blockchain has a unique way of generating hash values, which does not work with the copyright system as the legal implications hold true at that point, because anytime a new hashtag value is generated, a new data is created, which does not resemble to the original copyright work. So we are still exploring that area. It may or may not work for us.
Next question. Does the internal process flow take into account the Library of Congress's needs for deposit copies? Aaron?
Yes, thanks, Ananda. Yes, all of our data management will focus on really what we need to do with the data. It's not only for the U.S. Copyright Office, but also for the library and for our public as well. So as we assess the type of data that we need to take in, we will also assess what uses that data may be put to, and so of course that would include whatever needs the Library of Congress has. Obviously, as we continue to modernize, we will look at issues such as best edition and other deposit requirements as we assess kind of our data needs, as well as the Library of Congress data needs as well.
Next question is about the new rules for photographers to register their works. Are there plans to streamline the rules to assist photographers in entering a claim in quicker fashion?
Yes, this is Karen again. Thanks for the question. As everyone knows, when we are doing modernization, we are not just looking at our IT systems, although this webinar focused on kind of the data management initiative. We are also looking at improving and updating and revising our policies and practices, and that's why you've seen over the course of the last few years a number of additional regulations that have gone out. We will continue to do that as we modernize. So yes, we do plan on continuing to assess the process that we have for photographers and other artists to register with us and see if there are things that we need to change or improve or update as we modernize. And one of the other issues that we would like to address as we modernize is not only to update those practices, but also to ensure that we really are focusing on outreach and education to make sure that people who are utilizing our system as well as reading our practices are able to really understand understand in a very simplified way how to best interact with the office. So it's a two-pronged approach, both updating and revising our regulatory practices and then ensuring that we're educating the public about those practices in an easy way. So that's something that we're going to continue to do throughout modernization.
And this might be a related question. Is the Copyright Office exploring the time it takes to upload when submitting a registration? Right now, it is slow in its upload process when submitting a TV episode.
Yes, of course, that's going to be, again, another aspect that we are reviewing. As I've said in other fora, we are not trying to just redesign the current system and just do tweaks and improvements around the edges. We're essentially starting from scratch to redesign the system to the way that we can utilize current technology and the way that users and artists currently interact with data and with the internet. So one of the things that we will be assessing as we start doing our kind of user interface, analysis, as well as we start kind of doing pilots with users, is to make sure that we have a very simple upload process so that it's easy and not burdensome for people to be able to submit documents and other things to us, exploring things like drag and drop buttons where it's very, very simple for you to be able to upload something from your computer to the Copyright Office. So those are things that we are already exploring, and we hope to do more analysis to make sure that it's the easiest way for people to submit things to the Copyright Office.
Next question for Shuman Shukla. How is the data management plan going to help with Copyright Office modernization?
Thank you, Ananda. So data management plan is going to streamline the process, break the silos, so we will be able to identify the gaps in the data and also the redundancy and the missing information and overlap. So we will streamline and reduce those waste and make the information more complete, and that will help reduce the information flow process. And also what it does is, when users search for something, they will get the complete information. That will help the user experience, and also it will help bring all the information online so it is reachable from anywhere and everywhere. So it's more like putting information online, user-friendly, making it more accessible, and also the way the information they're looking for.
Next question, how will data management and these governance processes improve a user's experience with the Copyright Office? Will it, for example, improve pendency times?
Definitely. Definitely it will decrease the pendency time, improve it, because with more transparency and visibility in the process, we will be able to identify the bottlenecks, gaps, and holdups in the process and address them and make the process more efficient. So we'll be creating a single source of truth, connecting the information that will give a complete information relevant to the user queries. It will definitely improve the entire process.
And this is Karen, just to piggyback on what Suman said. I do think that, as we mentioned in our strategic plan, that it will data, collection and analysis will really help not only with the pendency time for registration, but with all other kind of decision making that we have to do within the Copyright Office. One of the difficulties that we've had with our current system is that we don't have really an easy way to accurately assess and report things that we're doing within the office. So as Suman said, if there's a bottleneck in the literary division or in the performing arts division, we will be able to, with a better data tool, identify where that bottleneck is occurring and perhaps analyze why that bottleneck is occurring. Is it occurring because we've done a recent change to our regulations that either people aren't understanding or is not being effective? Do we need to have more staff in one place versus another because of the influx, for example, that we might have seen over a certain amount of time? Are there certain times of year where we have more certain types of work coming in that we need to shift staff over to be able to address that increased influx? So having a really robust data model not only will help the Copyright Office make decisions and make a kind of staffing and resource allocation changes, but also will help the public as well to understand and get a full picture of the copyright ownership and registration information that we have here housed within the Copyright Office.
Next question related for Karen. Is it a goal to have actual scans of the certificates online for viewing by the public?
Yes, that is certainly one of the goals that we have. We want to, get to a point where we're almost completely electronic. Certainly, we will always probably have to have the option of paper for some, but if we can get to a point where almost everything is able to be done electronically, again, that will reduce overall processing time. Obviously, it will reduce costs to us if we're not mailing out certificates. People will be able to get their certificates immediately through email and by PDF. And of course, then if they need to have a certified certificate or something like that for legal purposes, we would be able to do that, but we would avoid all of the costs associated with paper until that is actually necessary. So that is definitely something we are considering. And we have had people who have, in our most recent modernization notice of inquiry, actually have already provided comments to us on that initiative and on those issues. Thank you.
Next question for Shuman Shukla. When using a data cloud, what steps will be taken to protect information from being hacked by bad actors?
Thank you, Ananda. So yes, data cloud is definitely a way to go, but it all depends upon what kind of data we have. There are 4 or 5 different levels of security classifications for the data. There are open information that could be published. There are secure information. There's PII information. There's sensitive. There is top secret data. So we have to make sure whatever we put on cloud, either the cloud is FedRAMP certified or have all those security protocols in place, or we may not publish entire data there. We could have a public-private kind of partnership where we can have a private gov cloud in which we can house all those top secret and secret data, or the PI informations, and we can publish those open data on the cloud. So it depends on what kind of data we want to publish and open gates to a public or keep it inside behind the firewall. So we are definitely considering all those options, whether we want to do in-house on-premise cloud or in hybrid cloud with a combination of in-house and the commercial cloud, or we can move completely towards that, the commercial cloud. So it depends on what kind of a data we have and how we want to classify and publish.
Next question for Karen. Will the Copyright Office still require 2 hard-copied best edition copies of each book, or is there a move towards submitting digital or e-book copies instead? And if hard copies are required, will the paper shipping slip still be needed?
Thank you, Ananda. That's a great question. This is a topic that we touched upon a little bit during our last modernization NOI, and I think that we are going to be following up in more specific detail, asking the public about, again, how should we take in items within the Copyright Office and what's the best way for us to do so. Certainly best edition will be something that we will have to consider. There are, certain areas in which we would be able to reduce the requirement of having 2 best edition copies, and we actually have done that recently in some of our regulatory updates. And so we're looking at it from a kind of a broader sense through modernization to see if there are other changes that we would need to do to ensure that we can, again, get that data in quickly. We would obviously be working closely with the Library of Congress on this, who needs to have certain edition qualities in order to satisfy the mandatory deposit rule under the Copyright Act.
Next question for Shuman. How will the dashboards improve or affect a user's experience with the Copyright Office? What will the public user be able to see? Can the user implement the tool to run reports? Will the user be able to generate reports on his or her own, internally and externally?
Thank you, Ananda. So with the business intelligence tools we are implementing here, we will publish lots of dashboards, reports, and queries, and it's an internal decision that we need to make and decide what kind of access we want to give the public, and what kind of role-based information they can manipulate. So we will have a different level of dashboard and role capabilities here. We may have a full-fledged role for internal copyright users who can generate any kind of reports, have all kind of access. For external users, we may only use publish the data which is applicable to the open data forums, or for the data that is used by the researchers for their purposes. So once we publish the information outside our firewall on the public domain, we will have to see what kind of access we can give them, and what kind of, not only what kind of access we can give them, what is beneficial to them, what our users are looking for. So this is an internal discussion that we are having, and we need to make a decision based on that. Then we will share the information, what kind of role or dashboards the users will be able to access. And definitely, they can make their own reports. If we publish outside, they should be able to generate their own reports, generate their own queries, or look the data that they want to see.
And this is Karen Temple again, just to follow up on what Suman said. That is an internal decision-making process that we are going to undergo in terms of what's kind of level of access to our data and to our data reporting we will want to provide for the public. But that's also an area where we want to get public input on that topic before we make any decisions. So just as I mentioned, we had that initial modernization notice of inquiry where we sought comments generally about modernization. Again, we will likely do another more specific notice of inquiry where we will seek comments from the public about how they want to use our data and what are the types of things that we should consider as we are making those decisions. We will also be participating with the public in terms of user testing. So even once we make some initial decisions, when we have a pilot out there, we will seek additional feedback. Is this the type of data reporting that the public finds useful? Do we need to change it at all? So we're going to be making some of those internal decisions, but we're going to be doing so with the help and the input of the general public as we move forward.
That concludes our program for today. Thanks for joining us, and please join us again for the next webinar scheduled for the end of July.